So, okay.
This is Karen with newclevelandradio.net, and it's time for Where the Music Never Dies. This is a special place devoted to the stories about my brother Joel. Um, I think of my brother Joel as just that. He was my brother. I thought I knew everything about him. But every time I came up to Saratoga Springs, I learned just a little bit more about my brother. And it had been many years since we had lived together. So I would sit there, and especially at either Cafe Lena or Uncommon Grounds, I would just listen to the stories about who he was. Today, Peter Davis, a musician from the capital area, is going to share his stories about Joel. And I'm really excited about this, Peter, because I found somewhere in my notes, and this probably goes back to the first time I came up to Saratoga, that Joel was talking about a guy by the name of Peter Davis. Like I was supposed to know who you were.
Oh, yeah.
Give me a little bit of background first. How long have you been in the music field? Is this something that you decided as a young kid, or did it just develop later in life?
All right. I'll give you a quick history. I could sing before I could talk. Uh, I'm 82 years old. And when I was a year and a half, my parents mainly played opera records at home. And when I was a year and a half, my mom took me on a train from New York to Chicago to visit my dad, who was fixing soldiers' teeth before they went overseas. And apparently, I was entertaining the entire train car by singing opera arias at a year and a half. No words, just like
Yeah.
the la 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 la, the tune. That's I don't remember that, of course. And you know, I had private clarinet lessons with a great teacher who came to the house. And in seventh grade, Mr. Singer, the music teacher at school, gave me a saxophone and showed me a blues progression. And this was the time when rock and roll was like really new. And my parents had moved from Brooklyn to Long Island after the war. My dad tried to find a place where he could set up a practice. And he went to various towns in Long Island. And when he got to Babylon, he called the two dentists that were there and tried to make an appointment. And he couldn't get an appointment for 8 months or something. So we
Oh,
said,
wow.
oh, this is the place. So uh, it was way different from my parents' experience living among Jewish people in Brooklyn,
Yeah.
uh, I was a kid that had no confidence and was really somewhat picked on in school. But after I got that saxophone and I started playing rock and roll, which was like no kids were like doing that. I mean, it was 1957, or something. And I sort of like, I started playing in bars with like older 18-year-old
Yeah.
guys and stuff like that. And my parents were freaked out by that because they were these like sort of artistic, educated, people. And here I was in a bar in Babylon, Long Island, like playing original rock and roll. So they sent me to Quaker boarding school, which is called Oakwood School, Poughkeepsie, New York, the oldest co-ed boarding school in the country. And it was during the blacklist, and Pete Seeger lived nearby there. And so Quaker schools were one of the few places that would hire him. So he would come often to our school, and that was a big influence on me. I was a musical chameleon wherever I went.
Love it.
Many instruments, many genres of music. And so, in order to avoid the Vietnam War, I joined the Peace Corps and went to Malawi, Central Africa. I really got into like African music there, and and then I landed a job in South Glens Falls Junior High teaching English after that. And about a year and a half later, I got fired
Oh
And
my.
that was 1972. And I put a little ad in the paper, guitar lessons. And so I've been a self-employed musician
Musician.
since.
Wow.
And the way that kind of like worked, especially when you're young, it's like when you're playing Monopoly, the strategy is if you land on something, buy it. Well, if somebody calls you to do something, like do it. So I've had many adventures with many great musicians,
Absolutely.
and so that's kind of basically my history.
Well, and that sort of explains to me what drew my brother to you because he loved music. He was self-taught in everything that he did. I remember as a young kid, um, in school, we all had to play an instrument. So my brother Gary played the clarinet, so did Joel. They played it well. When it came my turn, I was told on the first day, Karen, you're going to pretend you're playing the clarinet for the next year. I was bad. I really was. And
That's like a lot of people that get told mouth it when they.
yes, exactly.
I
Exactly.
have to like interject something here. Is that
Sure.
the things I've done a lot is work with Jay Unger and Molly Mason at their camp Ashokan, which is where and people of any age can learn music. And a great guy that teaches there, John Crum, always did a class called Singing for People Who Have Been Told Not to Sing.
Love it.
And his theory was that anybody can match one or two notes, but there's no songs that can, and so they start with the one or two notes. And then at the end of the week, they put a paper bag over their head. And at the concert, they unveil themselves as like singers. And
I
anyway,
love it. That
so go
is
ahead.
it's perfect. Well, I never did play the clarinet, but my brothers did. Joel taught himself how to play the trumpet. He played a banjo. He played a guitar. He played a ukulele. I'm sure he even played the keyboard. I just never saw it. Um, but the interesting part is when he moved to Saratoga Springs, he met some wonderful people, including yourself. And tell me what that was like. How did you guys meet?
I can't remember the first time. I just can't. Uh, but I knew Terry Lynn a, a little bit, and I had heard about Joel, and for sort of local or regional like music people, you get like intimidated. Oh, like this guy, Joel, he's like so accomplished and everything. But when we did when we did meet, and he and one of the first things that happened, and it's very timely because what's happening in Saratoga Springs um, this weekend, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, is called the Flurry Festival of Traditional Dancing and Music. And at the time, I was in the middle of my 13-year stint as program director of this. There's 250 little boxes over the weekend schedule that you have to fill in, and 400 performers, and it takes like 5 months to like really do it. And uh, Joel, of course, had been so immersed in, let's say, jazz, show music, pop music, and I'm sure other things. And he started out as a folk musician, um, but there are many things at this Flurry Festival that blew his mind. And I said, Joel, I'm comping you and Terry Lynn to this festival. And when you go to this thing, there's probably like 8 big dance halls, including one that has 800 people contra dancing, and 300 people swing dancing in another one, and African dance, anything you can imagine. People who are listening to this can look up flurryfestival.org. And fiddle music that people don't know a lot about, they think of hoedown or Irish music, jigs and reels. Well, about 30 years ago, a band that I was actually in called the Clayfoot Strutters started mixing Afrobeat and different third world genres in with the fiddle music. So the first thing, he came into this room and he sat down in the bleachers. There's 800 people contra dancing. And there's like these young guys playing the grooviest. One guy is like tapping with his feet. Another was playing a didgeridoo. And crazy stuff, and people like screaming on the dance floor, and so it was my treat and my pleasure, because Joel came up to me afterwards and said, that was unbelievable. This band was, amazing. And, but so anyway, that's one of the first things I remember of being able to, and then he started working with a band I'm in called Annie and the Hedonists. And I'm sure, like many other people have told you, he would say things to me. He said, well, he produced some of our albums.
Right.
And, he would say, I'm a big fan of your clarinet playing. Now, I didn't even know that he played, your family played the clarinet, but I came from a background of not being too confident in what I did and being really talented. I got into some high level situations where I was a little bit like outclassed by I should have put in more work. I've relied on talent, so
Sure.
much. But he had a way of really making me, and I'm sure everybody else, feel special. And then another time I asked him, I said, Joel, I said, you're so into like all the music scene that we have here in Saratoga and the capital region. I said, Joel, aren't we just like every other place? Like, are we like more special, like what we're doing here than millions of other similar sized towns, And he said, yeah, you guys are. You have like an amazing, like special scene here.
Yeah.
And and then of course there were I don't know, I'm just going on and on, but
Yeah, that's okay.
he mentioned, of course he was like a lyric, amazing wordsmith par excellence, and he would send me lyrics of songs, and I would do the music. I don't have lyrics really inside me yet. I'm still young. And one of them was the Where the Music Never Dies song.
That song, I it just it gives me chills because
Yeah.
Joel was right. There is no place like Saratoga Springs. There are no musicians like the ones I've met in Saratoga. And that's not to put any other city down or any other musicians. But what I've noticed over the years since I've been podcasting is that you all come together out of the love of music and you share. And I think that's what Joel saw. I think that's what really made him feel wonderful for the last 20 years. I mean, think about it. He started out in Hollywood, and yes, that was great, and he made a name for himself. But he very rarely shared that with anybody. In fact, the first award he ever won, and I'm not exactly sure which one it was, but my family, my parents, myself, my other brother, we didn't know till almost a year later. And he just said in passing, oh, yeah, I won that last year. And we said, excuse me? And he goes, you don't want to win awards. And I said, why? He said, because then you're expected to be that good the next time. He said, so I would prefer if I didn't win any awards and people just liked what I did. And I thought about that. And he's right, because once you're up here, people expect you to stay there. And if you sort of drop down, they start wondering like what happened. Tell me about, though, Where the Music Never Dies, because your clarinet playing in the recording is phenomenal. But he just gave you the words and you put the music together, or did you do the music and he put the words together?
No, he gave me the words. And I figured it out on guitar. And there's one tricky part in there which is kind of irregular in the chorus, which goes I should have had an instrument, but from far and near, with arms held open wide, you'll share here. And then this part, the da 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 da. Well, that should be a lot shorter.
Okay.
And we had some things where I'd send it back to him. I said, Joel, there's too many like words in here. He said, no, 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 just he was very adamant, you know, that has to be exactly like that. And so you'll hear the same, like what we call a two dominant chord going on for like a really long time if people look up the song. And uh and uh and then of course this was part of I think they probably may have discussed this before with other people, but this was part of the huge fundraising initiative for the cafe. And Joel said, "What we're going to do is we're going to go in the studio and record it." And this was all our local Saratoga people, and then we're going to get 20 famous people to sing like 2 or 4 bars each on video.
Yep.
And of course, a lot of times in the music business, people say that they're going to do things, or they're going to say, "Hey," like Jay Unger said to me, "You want to be part of the Prairie Home Companion House Band?" And I said to myself, I'll believe that when I see it, but then it ended up, happening. But and he always he went for more than he could actually get. Like, for example, he thought for sure he's going to get Dylan to be part of this. That didn't happen. But so many, if you look up the video on YouTube,
right,
you'll see all these amazing people that did that. And then the video shoot that he arranged as for part of it,
right.
just to be part of a production like that. But that's how the song came together. Yeah, and I'm proud of it. I like it.
Well, I post that song quite a bit and I talk about the song quite a bit because what I learned from the first day I went to Saratoga Springs is that the rest of the world may look like there's no hope, but you walk into this city, you walk in, there's music all around you. I mean, Cafe Lena is a major part of it, but there's so much else as well. And you can't escape it. You can't escape the smiles, the hard work that musicians actually put into their craft, which most of us sit back and we take for granted. Oh, look at Peter. He's out there playing the clarinet. Isn't that great? But the work behind it, there is. You have to practice. You have to come up with new arrangements. And as I've noted, you don't just play with one group. You can play with many. And we saw that at the Celebration of Life, where musicians, even on that night, came together for the first time.
Yeah.
And played with each other. So before you met Joel, you sort of knew Terry Lynn. Terry Lynn is his wife, and she, as I call her, she's Miss Saratoga. Everybody seems to know Terry. And Joel came with a resume that he didn't even publish. I mean, you all learned about him as time went on, but he didn't walk into the cafe the first day and say, "Hey, look at me. I have Grammys."
There was a whole bunch of stuff like before the cafe. For example, here's a funny thing. he would do this music for the for Sam Zell,
Yes.
those, what do you call them, automatrons, or
Right, right.
right. And so he had this group that I'm in, the Whippersnappers, and I don't know if anybody has described this on the podcast or not.
Oh,
It's hard to describe, but this guy Sam Zell was the publisher of the Chicago Tribune. He would have these gigantic like parties for hundreds of his friends, maybe thousands, I don't know.
yep.
And he would like, the featured entertainment for some year might be Elton John, who took up the whole floor of a hotel with two rooms for his stuffed animals. And Joel's, like describing all of this. But he used to give each person that came a, Karen, how would you describe it?
But it's like a huge music box.
A huge electronic music box,
yeah,
with topical lyrics, about the economy or something
right.
like that. Joel would write them, and then he'd hire us, different people each year, to play the music for it. Of course, I asked him, when I said when it was all over, Joel, like, can I get like one of these copies?
Yeah.
Want one of these music boxes? No, you guys. But there was reverse bargaining. Like, he there were three of us in the Whippersnappers.
Yeah.
So, well, how much would you guys charge to, like to do it? A 2-hour session. I said, I don't know, like $300 each. He said. And then he goes, that's not enough. How about 600? He said, oh, okay. That doesn't usually happen in a situation
Right.
like that. So there was, stuff like that. And I think that was one of the first times I actually sort of worked for Joel, or, but yeah.
He left a lot of history behind. He brought.
Oh, I'm sorry. And the one thing I wanted to say is that I have a few, maybe more than a few, lyrics of his in songs that like never got either put out there or made into a song. So for example, I said, Joel, I'd love to, there's this town that's near here called Hoosick Falls, and they're like Flint, Michigan, like their water is like completely like screwed up. I said, Joel, how about a song, There's Something in the Water? And we were working on that. Well, I don't know how many, like 4 or 5, 10 different like songs in progress of Joel's. And and then he's also had a group of people that wrote music.
Right. Right.
So maybe sometime there could be, the songs of Joel Moss, some kind of collection.
Yeah, I'm going to make a suggestion, and I'm going to throw it out there. I know my son Alex is going to be coming up to Saratoga to record his song. Maybe that would be a good time to be looking at the lyrics and the songs, and because he wants to create this EP that is going to be for Joel, but support the School of Music at Cafe Lena.
Oh, yeah.
So what a great idea. And it's funny that you talk about Joel being a lyricist, because our father wrote prose. And when anybody was getting married, or there was a bar mitzvah or a baby naming, he would ask you, what is your favorite song? And then he'd write lyrics to that music.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that Joel wrote lyrics until my son Alex started writing lyrics. He doesn't know music. He just writes lyrics, just like his uncle. And Joel started looking at his lyrics and going, well, let me show you mine. And it was like, what are you talking about? And that's when my son Alex really got into, you know what, I'm going to keep writing lyrics. I don't know if they'll turn into songs or not, but you know what, this is a legacy that I can carry on. And like I said, I probably learned about this maybe 20 years ago. So that means most of my life I had no idea of that talent.
Tell me about his book, Mr. Fuller.
Mr. Fuller, what's that?
Do you know?
I
Do you
don't
know?
know the story.
Do you know who Buckminster Fuller was?
No.
Joel was his personal assistant for a while, like right after he left college, and uh, he is like I don't even know. I feel qualified to necessarily describe this guy, but like he was, I think, one of the first people to create a geodesic dome
Geodesic, yeah.
and all sorts of like crazy, innovative, amazing stuff. And somehow Joel got to be his personal assistant. So I wasn't prepared to. So you didn't even know about that,
Well, no, I didn't know he worked with him, but Joel went to college for 5 years to become an architect.
right?
And his last semester, he went to Europe. And when he came back from Europe, he had one more test to take. Instead, he packed up his car and drove out to the West Coast. Um, my parents never let him live that down. It was like we paid for 5 years of college and you don't even have a piece of paper.
Well, that's
Um,
maybe where he was going to be with Buckminster
yeah,
Fuller. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So, but again, Joel was a private guy in many ways. You heard about these things about him in passing. And that's why I decided I wanted to do this series because there's so much comfort in hearing these stories. Um, and especially now, not only did I lose Joel in September, I just lost my husband. And one of the things that my family taught me was storytelling. And the more you remember, and the more you share, you keep that person alive. And I want to thank you for sharing your stories today. And
yes.
we will.
One more
Sure.
closing thing. Uh, he was the most compassionate friend in many ways. He, when after my wife had open heart surgery, he was one of the people. He said, "I'm coming over. I'm bringing lunch," and he would he would do caring things like that a lot, and so I'll always remember as that caring kind of person. And there's one song that we wrote together called Madrigal, which really is almost the quintessential kind of wedding song. It's like the lyrics are so uh, steeped in what love is and how he expresses it. I was reading through some of these lyrics this morning in preparation for this, and that you said one of something brought tears to your eyes. Well, that song, I'll send you a very bad
Yep.
demo of me singing it.
Okay. I'm sure it's not a bad demo. I'm sure it's pretty darn good.
But
And
yeah, it could have a pop anthem that every bride wants to play at their wedding, But
absolutely.
anyway, yeah, I love the guy, and my wife Beverly did too. And
Well, I can't thank you enough for sharing your stories. I'm sure those who are going to be listening to the podcast are going to be quite pleased to hear some of this because everybody has something a little bit different to say about Joel.
yeah,
And I'm just in awe of my big brother. And I can believe he's looking down at us and going, "Why are you even doing this?"
yeah. Well,
But
that's interesting because I was the I was the second program director of the Flurry Festival, and the first guy, Paul Rosenberg, they named a room after him after he stepped down, like the Rosenberg
Yeah.
Hall, or something. And I said, I don't want anything like named after me. And so, but finally they decided they were going to do it. So I'm going to hobble in there on my 4-week-old new knee on Saturday night, and they're going to dedicate the Davis Hall.
Wonderful.
But I definitely didn't. I tried to get out of it, but
You know what? When you put in that many years of service, you have to let those who want to honor you honor you. I've learned that. Um, and congratulations on it. And take care of that knee. I had knee surgery now 6 years ago. 6 years. Yeah, it will be 6 years in March. I had it the week before COVID shut down. So
yeah,
I,
what it's like. I'm doing very well. A good night's sleep would really be good.
yeah, well, that's
I
been,
know that's coming.
yeah, it'll be a while. But I found that, I kept waiting for my knee to get better, to get better. And then all of a sudden, one day I realized it was better. So
Right, right, right.
the therapy helps, but it does take a while. So
Yeah.
take care of yourself. Watch out for the snow and ice in Saratoga Springs.
Okay, thanks, Karen.
Thank you. Bye bye
Okay,
now.
bye.